Sam never liked the town of Greyhill, and Greyhill never liked him back. He was 17 years old, tall and thin, with messy dark hair that fell over his eyes no matter how many times he pushed it away. He had lived in Greyhill his whole life, but he always felt like a stranger there, like he was standing on the outside of a glass window, watching everyone else live their lives while he stayed invisible. His mother had died when he was 5, and his father had disappeared 2 years later without a single word of goodbye. Sam was raised by his grandmother, a quiet old woman named Ruth, who lived in a crooked little house at the edge of town, the last house before the forest began. Ruth was kind, but strange. She never let Sam go into the basement. She always locked the doors before sunset, and she whispered to herself late at night when she thought Sam was asleep, words he could never quite hear, no matter how hard he pressed his ear to the wall. The town itself was small and boring, just a few hundred people, one school, one shop, one church, and a long gray road that led to the highway and the rest of the world beyond. Most people in Greyhill had lived there for generations, and they all seemed to know something that Sam did not. They looked at him differently, not with hate, but with something worse, a kind of careful watching, like he was a dog that might bite at any moment. They smiled at him, but their smiles never reached their eyes, and when he walked past groups of adults, their conversations would stop dead until he was gone. Sam had only one friend in the whole town, a girl named Lily, who was the same age as him. She had red hair, bright green eyes, and a laugh that could make even the worst day feel lighter. She was the daughter of the town doctor, and she was the only person who treated Sam like a normal human being. "You think too much," she told him one afternoon as they sat on the old stone bridge over the river. The water below was dark and cold, moving slowly like it was tired. "You always think people are hiding things." "Because they are," Sam said, tossing a stone into the water and watching it disappear. "My grandmother locks the basement every night, and she talks to someone in the dark. Old Mr. Harris watches me from his window every single morning. And have you ever noticed that nobody in this town ever moves away?" Lily was quiet for a moment, and then she shrugged. "Maybe they just like it here." "Nobody likes it here, Lily. Not even you." She did not argue with that, and they sat in silence as the sky turned orange and pink above them. That night, something happened that changed everything. Sam was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when he heard a sound coming from below the floor. Not his grandmother whispering this time, but something else, a deep, low humming noise, like a machine buried underground. It vibrated through the walls and made his teeth ache. He sat up and listened. The sound lasted for about 30 seconds, and then it stopped as suddenly as it had started. The house was silent again, but Sam's heart was pounding in his chest. He got out of bed and crept down the hallway to the top of the stairs. His grandmother's bedroom door was open, and her bed was empty. The sheets were thrown aside as if she had left in a hurry. Sam felt a chill run down his spine. He went downstairs slowly, one step at a time, holding his breath. The kitchen was dark and empty, but the door to the basement was open for the first time in his life. A faint golden light was coming from below, and the air smelled strange, like metal and rain, and something sweet he could not name. He stood at the top of the basement stairs and looked down into the glow. Every part of his brain screamed at him to go back to bed, to pretend he had not seen this, to close the door and forget about it. But his feet moved on their own, and he began to walk down the stairs. The basement was not what he expected. It was not a storage room full of old boxes and broken furniture. It was a long stone tunnel carved into the earth, with walls that were smooth and covered in strange symbols that glowed with the same golden light. The tunnel stretched ahead into the darkness, far beyond what should have been the edge of the house. This was impossible. This tunnel was enormous, and it looked ancient, like it had been there for hundreds of years. How had he lived above it his whole life without knowing? He followed the tunnel for what felt like a long time, his bare feet cold on the stone floor, the golden symbols lighting his way like tiny lanterns. The air grew warmer the deeper he went, and the humming sound returned, growing louder with every step. And then the tunnel opened up, and Sam stopped breathing. He was standing at the edge of an underground cavern so large that he could not see the other side. The ceiling was high above him, covered in crystals that glowed blue and white like stars, and below, spread across the cavern floor, was a city, a real city, with buildings and streets and bridges and towers, all made from dark stone and glowing crystal. Lights flickered in windows, smoke rose from chimneys, and Sam could see tiny figures moving through the streets far below. There were people down here, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, living in a city that existed right beneath the town of Greyhill. Sam stood there, shaking, his mind racing. Who were these people, and how long had they been here, and why had nobody told him about this place? And then a hand landed on his shoulder, and he spun around with a gasp. His grandmother stood behind him, her face pale and serious, her eyes filled with something that looked like both sadness and fear. "I told you never to come down here, Sam." "What is this place?" he whispered. Ruth looked past him at the city below, and her expression was heavy with a lifetime of secrets. "This is the reason your father disappeared," she said quietly. "And now that you have seen it, they will come for you too." Before Sam could ask what she meant, a loud bell began to ring, somewhere deep in the underground city, its sound echoing through the cavern like a warning. And Ruth grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "Run," she said. "We have to run right now." Sam did not ask questions. He just ran. Ruth pulled him back through the tunnel, her grip tight on his wrist, her breathing fast and rough. For an old woman, she moved with incredible speed, and Sam had to struggle to keep up with her as they raced through the golden-lit passage. The bell was still ringing behind them, deep and loud, and Sam could hear something else now, footsteps, many of them, echoing through the tunnel like a drumbeat. Someone was following them. They burst out of the basement and into the kitchen. Ruth slammed the basement door shut and locked it with a heavy iron key that she pulled from a chain around her neck. Then she pushed a wooden cabinet in front of the door with a grunt of effort. "Grandmother, what is happening?" Sam gasped, his heart slamming against his ribs. "What is that city down there, and who is coming after us?" Ruth did not answer right away. She moved through the house quickly, pulling curtains shut and checking every lock on every window. Her hands were shaking, but her face was hard and determined. Finally, she sat Sam down at the kitchen table and looked him straight in the eyes. "Listen to me very carefully, because I do not have much time to explain. The city below Greyhill is called Underhaven," she began, her voice low and steady. "It has existed for over 300 years, built by people who wanted to hide from the world above. At first, they were just outcasts and refugees, but over time, they became something else, something powerful and dangerous. The people of Underhaven discovered something in the deep earth, a kind of energy that comes from the crystals in the cavern walls. They learned to use this energy in ways that should not be possible, to heal wounds in seconds, to move objects without touching them, to see things that have not happened yet." Sam stared at her. "That sounds like magic." "Call it what you want," Ruth said. "It is real, and it changed them. The people of Underhaven are not like us anymore. They live longer, they are stronger, and they believe they are better than the people who live above ground. But here is the part that matters to you, Sam. Your father was one of them." The words hit Sam like a punch to the chest. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Ruth continued, "Your father, Daniel, was born in Underhaven. He came to the surface when he was young, because he was curious about the world above. That's where he met your mother, and that's where they fell in love. He chose to stay here, to live a normal life with her and with you. But the people of Underhaven do not let their own leave. They believe that anyone born in the city belongs to the city forever. When they found out that Daniel had a child, they wanted you brought below. Why? Sam asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Why would they want me? Because the energy of the crystals is passed through blood, Ruth said. Your father carried it inside him, and he passed it to you. You are half of Underhaven, Sam, whether you know it or not. And they believe that children born between their people and surface people are special, more powerful than anyone born entirely below. Sam looked down at his hands, as if seeing them for the first time. I do not feel powerful. That is because the energy is sleeping inside you. It wakes up when you get close to the crystals, which is exactly what happened tonight. You went into the tunnel, and they felt you. The bell was not a warning for them. It was a signal that a half-blood had entered the cavern. Before Sam could respond, there was a loud knock at the front door. 3 slow, heavy knocks that made the whole house shake. Ruth stood up fast, knocking her chair backward. They are here already. I thought we had more time. Who is here? Sam demanded. The wardens, the soldiers of Underhaven. They enforce the laws of the city, and the most important law is that no half-blood can live on the surface. The knocking came again, louder this time, and Sam heard a voice from outside, deep and calm and terrifying. Ruth, open the door. We know the boy has awakened. There is no reason to make this difficult. Ruth grabbed Sam by the shoulders. There is a path through the forest behind the house that leads to an old mill by the river. Lily's father knows about Underhaven. He is one of the surface people who keeps the secret. Go to him and tell him what happened. He will know what to do. I am not leaving you here alone, Sam said. You must, Ruth said, and her eyes were full of tears. I have protected you for 10 years, Sam. I made a deal with them when your father was taken. I promised to keep you away from the tunnels, and in return, they would leave you alone. But now that deal is broken, and the only way to keep you safe is to get you far from here. The front door cracked, and golden light spilled through the gap. The wardens were breaking through. Ruth pushed Sam toward the back door. Go now, and do not look back. Find Lily's father. He will explain the rest. Sam wanted to stay, wanted to fight, wanted to do anything other than run. But the look in his grandmother's eyes told him that arguing would only get them both caught. He squeezed her hand one last time, and then burst through the back door into the cold night air. The forest behind the house was dark and thick, and Sam ran into it without thinking, branches scratching his face and arms as he pushed through the trees. He could hear shouts behind him and the sound of the back door being thrown open. He ran harder than he had ever run in his life, his bare feet pounding against the cold ground, his breath coming in sharp, painful gasps. The trees were tall and close together, blocking out the moonlight, and he could barely see where he was going. But somehow he found the path, a narrow dirt trail that wound through the forest like a snake. He followed it blindly, trusting his grandmother's words, praying that it would lead him to safety. After what felt like forever, the trees opened up, and he saw it, the old mill, standing at the edge of the river like a tired giant. Its wheel was still, its windows dark, and it looked like it had not been used in years. But there was a light on in the small house beside it, and Sam recognized the car parked outside. It belonged to Dr. Thomas, Lily's father. Sam ran to the door and banged on it with both fists. Dr. Thomas, please open up. Please, I need help. The door swung open almost immediately, and Dr. Thomas stood there, a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes that went wide with shock when he saw Sam standing there, barefoot and shaking and covered in scratches. Sam, he said, what on earth happened to you? My grandmother sent me, Sam panted. She said you know about Underhaven. She said you can help me. Dr. Thomas's face changed in an instant. The kindness disappeared, replaced by something hard and urgent. He grabbed Sam's arm and pulled him inside, slamming the door shut behind them. "Did anyone follow you?" he asked sharply. "I do not know, maybe. The wardens were at our house." Dr. Thomas cursed under his breath and moved to the window, peering out into the darkness. Then he turned back to Sam with a look that was equal parts fear and determination. "Sit down, Sam," he said. "We have a very long night ahead of us, and there are things you need to know. Things that will change everything you think you understand about this town and about yourself." Sam sank into a chair, exhausted and terrified, and waited for the truth to finally come. Dr. Thomas locked every door and window in the house before he said a single word. He moved with the careful speed of a man who had practiced this before, like he had always known that this night would come. Sam sat at the kitchen table, wrapped in a blanket that Dr. Thomas had thrown over his shoulders. His feet were bleeding from the run through the forest, and his whole body was shaking, not just from the cold, but from everything he had seen and heard in the last hour. "Where is Lily?" Sam asked, suddenly afraid for his friend. "She is at her mother's house in the next town," Dr. Thomas said. "I sent her there last week. I had a feeling something was about to change." "You knew this was going to happen?" Dr. Thomas sat down across from him and ran his hands through his gray hair. "Not exactly, but there have been signs. The ground has been shaking at night. The river has been running warmer than usual, and people in town have been acting strangely. The Underhaven Council has been preparing for something, and I was afraid it had to do with you." "My grandmother told me about the crystals and the energy, and my father," Sam said. "She said I am a half-blood." Dr. Thomas nodded slowly. "Your father, Daniel, was one of the most gifted people ever born in Underhaven. The crystal energy was incredibly strong in him, stronger than in anyone the city had seen in generations. When he left to live on the surface, it was a huge blow to them, and when you were born, they saw a chance to get that power back." "But I do not have any power," Sam insisted. "I am just a normal person." "You are not," Dr. Thomas said firmly, "and deep down, I think you know that. Have you never wondered why animals always seem to come to you? Why you can sense when a storm is coming hours before it arrives? Why you sometimes know what people are going to say before they say it?" He had noticed these things, but he had always told himself they were just coincidences, just his imagination playing tricks on him. "The crystal energy has been inside you since the day you were born," Dr. Thomas continued. "It has been growing slowly, like a seed waiting for the right conditions to bloom. Tonight, when you entered the tunnel and got close to the crystal light, you triggered something. The energy inside you woke up, and every person in Underhaven who is sensitive to crystal power felt it happen." "That is why the bell rang," Sam whispered. "Exactly, and that is why the wardens came for you so fast. A half-blood awakening is a rare event, and the council will not rest until they have you in the city." Sam felt sick. "What do they want to do with me?" Dr. Thomas hesitated, and that hesitation scared Sam more than anything else. Underhaven has a tradition called the binding. When a half-blood is found, they are brought before the crystal throne, a massive formation of crystals in the deepest part of the cavern, and the energy inside them is fully unlocked. The process bonds them to Underhaven permanently. Once it is done, they can never leave the city. The crystals call to them constantly, and being away from them causes terrible pain. "They want to trap me underground forever?" Sam said, his voice rising with panic. "They do not see it as trapping. They see it as bringing you home. In their minds, you belong to Underhaven by blood, and the binding is a gift, a way to unlock your full potential." "I do not want their gift," Sam shouted, standing up so fast that his chair fell backward. "I do not want to live underground, and I do not want to be bound to some crystals for the rest of my life." "I know," Dr. Thomas said calmly, "and that is why your father fought so hard to keep you hidden. He made a deal with the council through your grandmother. You would stay on the surface and never go near the tunnels, and in return, the council would leave you alone. Your father agreed to return to Underhaven voluntarily as part of that deal. Sam felt his legs go weak, and he grabbed the edge of the table. My father went back to save me? He did. He gave up his freedom so that you could have yours. He has been in Underhaven for the last 10 years, and as far as I know, he is still there. Sam's mind was spinning. His father was alive. Not dead, not gone, but alive and trapped in a city beneath the ground. Every emotion he had ever felt about his father's disappearance came rushing back at once. Anger, sadness, confusion, and now something new. A fierce, burning need to find him. I have to go down there, Sam said. Dr. Thomas stared at him. Are you out of your mind? The wardens are looking for you right now, and the moment you step into Underhaven, the council will take you to the Crystal Throne. My father is down there. He gave up everything for me, and I am not going to just leave him there. Sam, listen to me. Your father made his choice because he loved you. If you go down there and get yourself captured, his sacrifice means nothing. The words were harsh, but Sam could see the truth in them. He sat back down, his hands clenched into fists on the table. Then what do I do? He asked. I cannot just hide here forever. The wardens will find me eventually. And what about my grandmother? They have her. Dr. Thomas was quiet for a long moment, staring at the table as if the answers were written in the wood. Then he looked up with a strange expression, a mix of reluctance and resolve. There is one other option, he said slowly, but it is dangerous, and I was hoping I would never have to mention it. Sam leaned forward. Tell me. There is a group of people, surface people, and a few who escaped from Underhaven, who have been working in secret for years to find a way to destroy the Crystal Throne. They believe that if the throne is destroyed, the binding will break for everyone who has been bound, and the council will lose their greatest source of power. Who are these people? They call themselves the Ember Circle, Dr. Thomas said, and I am one of them. Sam blinked. You? I became a doctor in this town for a reason, Sam. I have been studying the crystal energy for 20 years, trying to understand how it works and how it can be stopped. Your father was part of the circle before he went back to Underhaven. In fact, he was the one who started it. Sam could not believe what he was hearing. His father, the man he had thought had abandoned him, had actually been fighting a secret war against an underground city. The problem is that we have never been strong enough to get close to the Crystal Throne, Dr. Thomas continued. The cavern is heavily guarded, and the energy from the crystals makes it nearly impossible for normal people to go deep enough without getting sick. But a half-blood, someone with the energy already inside them, could survive the journey. You want me to destroy the Crystal Throne, Sam said. It was not a question. I want to give you the choice your father never had, Dr. Thomas said. You can run. I have contacts in other cities who can hide you, give you a new name, a new life. The wardens might eventually stop looking for you, or you can stay and fight. Join the Ember Circle, learn to control the power inside you, and help us end Underhaven's control over everyone they have trapped below. Sam looked at his bleeding feet, at the scratches on his arms, at the dark forest outside the window where the wardens were hunting for him. And he thought about his father, alone in a city of stone and crystal, paying the price for his son's freedom. The choice was not really a choice at all. I will stay, Sam said. I will fight. Tell me what I need to do. Dr. Thomas let out a long breath, and for the first time that night, something like hope flickered in his eyes. First, we need to get you somewhere safe where the wardens cannot find you. Then we need to introduce you to the rest of the circle. And then, Sam, we need to teach you how to use the power that is sleeping inside you, before Underhaven finds a way to use it first. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, and somewhere in the distance, Sam thought he heard the faint sound of a bell ringing deep beneath the earth. They left the mill before dawn, moving through the forest in complete darkness. Dr. Thomas carried a small leather bag over his shoulder and walked with the confidence of someone who had traveled this path many times before. Sam followed close behind, every sound making his heart jump: the crack of a twig, the rustle of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl. He kept expecting golden light to appear between the trees, kept expecting the wardens to step out of the shadows and drag him underground. But nothing came, and after nearly an hour of walking, they arrived at a place Sam had never seen before, a clearing in the deepest part of the forest, where a large stone building sat half hidden by ivy and fallen trees. It looked like an old church, but the symbols carved into its walls were the same ones Sam had seen in the tunnel beneath his grandmother's house. "This is the Ember Circle's meeting place," Dr. Thomas said, pushing open the heavy wooden door. "We call it the Hearth." Inside, the building was warm and bright, lit by dozens of candles that flickered in iron holders along the walls. The floor was made of old stone, and in the center of the room, a large table was covered with maps, papers, and strange instruments that Sam did not recognize. There were people here, 5 of them, sitting around the table, and they all looked up when Sam walked in. "Everyone, this is Sam," Dr. Thomas said. "Daniel's son. He awakened tonight." Every pair of eyes locked onto Sam with an intensity that made him want to step back behind Dr. Thomas and hide. A woman stood up first. She was tall and thin, with silver hair pulled back in a tight braid, and sharp, dark eyes that seemed to look straight through him. "I am Vera," she said, her voice cool and precise. "I was your father's closest friend in the circle. You look exactly like him." A large man with a thick beard and rough hands raised a hand in greeting. "Name is Gus. I handle the weapons and the heavy lifting around here." A young woman with short black hair and a scar across her left cheek gave Sam a quick nod. "I am Kira. I was born in Underhaven, but I escaped 8 years ago. I know the city better than anyone on the surface." An older man with dark skin and kind eyes introduced himself as Marcus, a former teacher who had discovered the truth about Greyhill 15 years ago. And beside him sat a boy who looked about Sam's age, pale, nervous, with eyes that darted around the room like a trapped animal. "That is Finn," Dr. Thomas said quietly. "He is a half-blood like you. We found him 2 years ago in a town 50 miles from here. The wardens were after him too." Finn looked at Sam and gave a small, shaky smile. "It gets less terrifying after a while," he said, though he did not sound very convincing. Sam sat down at the table, and for the next several hours, the members of the Ember Circle told him everything. They told him that Underhaven had been growing for centuries, spreading beneath the earth like the roots of a massive tree. Tunnels connected it to dozens of towns across the region, and in each town there were surface people who kept the secret. Some willingly, because they had family below, and some because the council had threatened them into silence. They told him that the Crystal Throne was the heart of Underhaven's power, a formation of ancient crystals that pulsed with energy so strong that it could be felt miles away. The council used the throne to perform the binding, to fuel their abilities, and to maintain control over everyone in the city. Without the throne, their power would fade, and the bound would be set free. They told him that his father had discovered a weakness in the throne, a fracture deep inside the main crystal that could be exploited. If enough energy was pushed into that fracture, the throne would shatter, and the wave of released power would break every binding in the city. "But the energy needed to crack the throne is enormous," Vera explained. "Far more than any normal person can produce. That is why the half-bloods are so important. Your mixed blood allows you to channel crystal energy at a level that pure Underhaven people cannot match." "Is that why they want to bind us?" Sam asked. "Because they are afraid of what we can do if we stay free?" "Partly," Kira said, "but also because a half-blood who is bound becomes the most powerful weapon the council has. Your father was bound against his will when he returned, and the Council has been using his power ever since. He is one of the reasons Underhaven has grown so much in the last 10 years. Sam felt rage burn in his chest. They had taken his father, stolen his freedom, and turned him into a battery for their underground empire. "How do I learn to use my power?" he asked. "Carefully," Dr. Thomas said. "The crystal energy is not something you can control overnight. It responds to emotion, especially strong ones like fear and anger. Without training, it can be unpredictable and even dangerous." Over the next 3 weeks, Sam trained with the Ember Circle every day. Vera taught him to meditate, to feel the energy inside him like a warm current flowing through his veins. She showed him how to focus it, how to direct it, and most importantly, how to hold it back when it threatened to explode out of him. Finn trained alongside him, and Sam quickly realized that the nervous boy was much stronger than he looked. Finn could move small objects with his mind and create sparks of blue light between his fingers, skills he had been practicing in secret since his own awakening. "It is like a muscle," Finn told Sam one evening as they sat outside the hearth, exhausted from practice. "The more you use it, the stronger it gets, but if you push too hard, you can hurt yourself." Sam learned fast, faster than anyone expected. Within a week, he could feel the crystal energy flowing through him like a second heartbeat. Within 2 weeks, he could push it outward, creating a shockwave strong enough to knock over a stack of books from across the room. And by the end of the 3rd week, he could create a shield of shimmering golden light around his body that could deflect a thrown stone. "He is stronger than Daniel was at this stage," Vera told Dr. Thomas one night when they thought Sam was not listening. "Maybe stronger than anyone we have ever seen." But Sam did not feel strong. Every night, he lay awake thinking about his grandmother, wondering if she was safe, or if the wardens had taken her below. He thought about his father, trapped and bound, his power being drained for a cause he had fought against. And he thought about Lily, who knew nothing about any of this, and who might be in danger, just because she was his friend. One evening, Kira came to the hearth with news that made everyone go pale. "The Council has made an announcement," she said, her face grim. "They are giving Sam 1 week to surrender himself. If he does not, they will begin taking surface people underground, starting with the families of known Circle members." "That means my grandmother," Sam said, his stomach dropping. "They will go after Lily." "They are using fear to flush you out," Marcus said. "It is what they always do." Sam stood up, and the candles in the room flickered as the energy inside him surged. "Then we do not wait any longer," he said, his voice steady, despite the terror in his heart. "We go in now. We find my father, we free the bound, and we destroy the Crystal Throne before they can hurt anyone else." The Circle members looked at each other, and Sam could see the doubt in their faces, but also the hope. "He is right," Vera said finally. "We have been hiding long enough. It is time to take the fight to them." Dr. Thomas nodded slowly. "Then we plan tonight, and we move tomorrow. May whatever is watching over us give us the strength to survive what comes next." And deep below the earth, the crystals pulsed and hummed, as if they already knew what was coming. The entrance they chose was not beneath Sam's grandmother's house. That one would be heavily guarded. Instead, Kira led them to an abandoned well at the edge of a farmer's field, 2 miles from town. The well had been sealed with a rusted iron cover for decades, but beneath it was a narrow shaft that dropped straight down into one of Underhaven's forgotten tunnels. They went in at midnight. Sam, Kira, Finn, Vera, Gus, and Dr. Thomas. Marcus stayed behind at the hearth to coordinate an escape route in case things went wrong. The shaft was tight and dark, and Sam had to press his arms against his sides as he lowered himself down on a rope that Gus had anchored to a tree above. The air grew warmer with every meter, and the familiar hum of the crystals vibrated through the stone walls. When Sam's feet touched solid ground, he found himself in a narrow tunnel lit by a faint blue glow, dimmer than the golden light he had seen before, and older somehow, like this part of the city had been forgotten. "This is the old quarter," Kira whispered. "It was the first part of Underhaven that was built, but nobody lives here anymore. The council declared it off-limits years ago, because the tunnels are unstable." "Comforting," Finn muttered behind Sam. They moved through the old quarter in single file, stepping carefully over cracked stone and fallen ceiling beams. Kira navigated with the confidence of someone walking through their own home, turning left and right through a maze of passages that all looked the same to Sam. After 20 minutes, the tunnel opened into a wider corridor, and Sam could hear something, voices, distant and echoing, and the steady rhythm of hammering. "We are close to the main city now," Kira said. "The crystal throne is in the deep hold, at the very center of the cavern. To get there, we have to pass through the market district and the warden barracks." "How do we get past the wardens?" Sam asked. Kira smiled. It was a sharp, dangerous smile. "We do not get past them. We go under them. There is a drainage system beneath the city streets that connects to the deep hold. It is filthy and tight, but the wardens never patrol it." The drainage tunnels were knee-deep in dark water that smelled terrible, and Sam had to breathe through his mouth to keep from gagging. They waded through in silence, the sound of the city above them muffled by layers of stone. Finn kept close to Sam, his face pale but determined. His hands glowed faintly with blue light, ready to defend them if needed. Behind them, Gus carried a heavy pack of tools and explosives, a backup plan in case Sam's power was not enough to crack the throne. After what felt like an eternity in the drains, Kira stopped and pointed upward at a metal grate in the ceiling. "This opens into the deep hold antechamber. Beyond that door is the crystal throne." Gus lifted the grate, and they climbed out one by one into a large circular room carved from smooth black stone. The air here was thick with energy. Sam could feel it pressing against his skin, buzzing in his ears, making the blood in his veins sing. Every nerve in his body was alive, and the power inside him was straining to break free. "Control it," Vera whispered, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Not yet. Save everything for the throne." A massive door stood before them, made of dark metal and covered in crystal symbols that pulsed with white light. Sam placed his hand on the door, and it swung open as if it had been waiting for him. The crystal throne room was the most incredible thing Sam had ever seen. It was an enormous chamber, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. The walls were lined with crystals of every color, blue, gold, white, green, purple, all pulsing in a slow, synchronized rhythm, like a giant heartbeat. And in the center of the room, rising from the floor like a mountain of light, was the crystal throne itself. It was not a chair, as Sam had imagined. It was a massive spire of interlocking crystals, taller than a house, glowing with such intense light that it was hard to look at directly. The air around it shimmered and warped, and Sam could hear a sound coming from it. Not the humming he had heard before, but something that sounded almost like breathing. And standing at the base of the throne, chained to it by bands of crystallized light, was a man. He was thin and pale, with dark hair streaked with gray, and hollow eyes that stared at nothing. But Sam recognized him instantly from the single photograph his grandmother had kept on her bedside table. "Father!" Sam shouted, and the word echoed through the chamber like thunder. Daniel's eyes focused slowly, and when they found Sam, something broke in his expression. A wall of resignation crumbled, and behind it was pure, desperate hope. "Sam, is that you? How are you here?" "I came to get you out," Sam said, running toward him. "Stop!" a voice commanded from behind the throne, and a figure stepped into the light. She was a woman, tall and regal, with skin that seemed to glow faintly from within. Her hair was pure white, her eyes were the color of crystal, and she wore a long robe that shimmered like liquid silver. She carried herself with the absolute authority of someone who had never been disobeyed. "I am Seraphine, head of the Council of Underhaven," she said, her voice cold and beautiful, "and you must be the half-blood boy who has caused us so much trouble." Behind her, a dozen wardens stepped out of the shadows, their bodies armored in crystal plates that glowed with blue light. They carried no weapons. Their hands crackled with energy, and that was weapon enough. "You walked right into our home," Seraphine said. "Did you really think we would not be expecting you?" Sam's heart sank. It was a trap. They had known the circle was coming. But Vera stepped forward, her face calm. "We knew you would be expecting us. That is why we brought something you were not expecting." She looked at Sam and nodded. Sam closed his eyes and reached inside himself, past the fear, past the doubt, past everything, and he found the power. It was like a sun living inside his chest, blazing and enormous, and when he opened himself to it, the entire room exploded with golden light. The wardens stumbled backward. Even Seraphine flinched, raising a hand to shield her eyes. "Impossible," she breathed. "He is stronger than Daniel." "Now, Sam," Vera shouted, "the fracture is near the base. Push everything you have into it." Sam thrust his hands forward and sent every drop of energy he had at the crystal throne. A beam of blinding gold light shot from his palms and struck the base of the spire with a sound like a cannon blast. The throne screamed. There was no other word for it. The crystals vibrated so violently that cracks raced up the spire like lightning. Finn added his own power, a stream of blue light joining Sam's gold, and the cracks spread faster. "Stop them!" Seraphine screamed, and the wardens charged forward, but Gus met them with a roar, swinging a massive iron bar, while Kira and Dr. Thomas fought with weapons they had carried from the surface. Sam poured everything he had into the throne, screaming with the effort. His vision blurred, his muscles burned, and he could feel the energy tearing through him like fire. But he did not stop. The chains around his father shattered first. Daniel fell to the ground, free for the first time in 10 years, and he looked up at his son, with tears streaming down his face. "Together," Daniel said, rising to his feet and stretching out his hands. Golden light erupted from him too, weaker than Sam's, but steady, and it joined the beam striking the throne. The crystal throne shattered. It did not just break, it exploded. A wave of light and energy burst outward in every direction, washing over everything like a tidal wave. Sam was thrown backward off his feet, and the world went white. When the light faded, the throne was gone. Where it had stood, there was nothing but a pile of dull, gray stones. The crystals on the walls had gone dark, and the chamber was lit only by the faint glow of the circle's torches. Seraphine stood frozen, her hands trembling, her glowing skin now pale and ordinary. "What have you done?" she whispered. All across the city, Sam knew, the binding was breaking. People who had been chained to Underhaven for years, for decades, were suddenly free. Free to leave, free to choose, free to see the sky for the first time in their lives. Daniel put his arms around Sam, and for the first time in 10 years, Sam felt his father's embrace. "You did it," Daniel whispered. "You brave, incredible boy, you did what I never could." Sam held his father tight and let the tears come. Behind them, the Ember Circles stood together, battered and bruised, but alive and victorious. It would take months to sort out the aftermath, to help the freed people of Underhaven adjust to the surface, to deal with the council members who had abused their power, to rebuild the trust between the people above and below. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Tonight, Sam had his father back. Tonight, the people of Underhaven were free. Tonight, the boy who had always felt like a stranger in his own town had discovered that he was something extraordinary. and somewhere above them, past the stone and the earth and the forgotten tunnels, the first light of dawn was breaking over Grey Hill, golden and warm and full of promise, like the beginning of a story that was only just getting started.